All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. I'm your host, Ryan Schofield, and thank you for tuning in. And thank you to all of the subscribers and everyone who has commented or contributed anyway. Mostly thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you for following me and welcome along. This is still construction under progress kind of deal. We don't know exactly, I don't know what exactly it is I do here. I am just someone who likes to talk and likes the sound of my own voice. And really, people seem to like it, or a couple people do. We're not kind of hit or miss on that one, but slowly but surely we build this up. In the past week, the following has gone up about 50% on this one. I'd like to say the percentages, it sounds a lot better than the actual numbers, but it all starts somewhere. Rome was not built in one day. So, just a little bit of the who, what, when, where, and why. Again, as I mentioned, I am your host, Ryan Schofield. I am just kind of the everyman sports fan, a little bit of a degenerate, and somebody who was not physically gifted enough to continue to play sports, but smart enough to keep following them and be able to have a conversation with pretty much anybody at any level and convince them on idiots for the most part. Sometimes the other person is actually the idiot. Those are the more difficult ones to deal with, and that's a lot of what I talk about actually on this show too. Is I don't necessarily come out with hot takes, but I like to have the reactions to the situations or the thought process of why people think what they think sometimes. And occasionally I let you know what I think. But for the people who are watching here, you're probably like, "Wow, you're operating pretty clear. Your eyes are wide open, and you have a little glare." Yeah, no, I'm not on cocaine. I'm actually just not high on marijuana tonight, so that we're going to be at a different speed. So thank you for everyone who was along the journey with me. I just got back from my Chicago Milwaukee trip a couple days ago. Really needed to recharge the batteries. I don't exactly take what I would call an average vacation. Like that was actually a vacation for me. I covered both days. I walked about 15 miles between both cities, as far as, and with a backpack on my shoulder for most of them. I kind of covered that. You can follow me on my social media. I'm willing to even give you my personal Facebook. I'm Ryan Schofield on there, which actually is a fun thing to do if you really want to see where you rank in the world. I used to be a comedian at some point in time. So I do make jokes from time to time that I think are amusing. But I used to actually, if you ever want to feel better about yourself, what you can do is most people suck. So, there's a good chance that if you're a person, you're better than most people because most people suck. If you suck, that sucks for you, sucks for the people that have to live with you. But do a Facebook search of your name and start comparing yourselves to the other people with that name. In the game of Ryan Schofields, I think there's really only one that I saw that's doing better. There's some Ryan Schofield that's a goalie for some soccer club over in England. I want to know a little more about the league that he plays in, but I got to imagine he's got more than 67 subscribers on a YouTube page if he opens one. Got to imagine he's got a bigger following than I do, or more people have actually paid money to see him do what he does. I mean, people do pay me to do what I do. I should also tell you right now, I am a salesman. That's what I do. I sell furniture for a living. I guess in a way, people pay me a decent amount of money to watch me do what they do because my commission does come out of what they pay. But, less of that, more of the sports and the gambling or just the thoughts of the ballpark tour. That's kind of what I wanted to cover here. So I did record in Chicago while I was there. I've caught you up on those. If you want to give those a listen back, you can. I might touch on some little themes of there. Chicago, I would say, was probably my favorite city I have visited in America so far. To the point of that, as I was told, don't be fooled in the summertime. There is a winter there, but I'm very well aware of that. I live in upstate New York. For those of you that don't know, I've felt Mother Nature's dick. I've been pegged by Mother Nature many, many times. If you research Western New York, yeah, it's not fun. And I used to work outside too. So when I used to work outside when it was like 20 below with the wind and everything. So I'm good on that one. I want to try to find a warm weather city at some point in time. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'm always willing to take them. I like to encourage people to drop in the comments section. You can also follow me at SCHO525, SCHO 525. That's on X and on Instagram. One of these days I might actually put the work forth and actually make a little graphic or something or figure out how to do that. We're not really doing production value just yet. We're still trying to build this thing to get it where I can justify spending the money. But I at least wore a nice shirt today. I mean, I think I wore a wife beater one time, which by the way, I always love, you know, you that was one that hung around a little long. In the woke politically correct era, it still is weird. I've been around people that I know can get offended by things, but when I say an A shirt, they still kind of like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's the a tank top, and it's kind of like, oh, you mean yeah, a wife beater. It's kind of like how it became a whole thing that you can make fun of just about any net, or you can't make fun of any nationalities anymore. You once upon a time could be able to. It was actually, I mean, I'm all for jokes if they're funny. You can make any joke you want about me as long as it's funny. If a joke doesn't have a good punchline, then it's not a joke. It's just a mean comment. Um, some of the one of the worst jokes I've ever heard in my life, I'm the butt end of, and I don't really want to get too much because it involves other people in my family. It's the whole thing, but yeah, I've been the butt of a good joke, but you can't get upset at something that if they said it about somebody else, you'd be laughing at it. Carry that with yourself, by the way. But I didn't necessarily get offended by it, but people will still use the comments, be like a redheaded stepchild. And I mean, you might not be able to tell with this, but I'm a ginger, or as I try to tell people that say that you're not really that ginger, no one goes around just saying that. No one would say, yeah, I've got AIDS when they don't have it. It's kind of what it is. Although I will say, I have definitely on at least two occasions, I think, the only reason I got laid was because somebody needed to check a ginger off the list. So just kind of like me in the game of Ryan Schofield's, in the game of other gingers, probably doing pretty well on that one too. I'm not someone that necessarily considers myself a very attractive person necessarily, but I will find it funny that any redhead will always be told we look like each other. I'm sorry. I know Ed Sheeran's a little more talented of a musician for me, but if it wasn't for money or talent, I think any girl that he has fucked would definitely fuck me. Challenge accepted too. I mean, I will be willing to say that if him and I were to hang out, if someone didn't know who he was and they said, "Hey, which one do you like more?" Probably going to have a better game than he does. If there's no bringing out an acoustic guitar, if it's actually just because the funny thing is I've been a bachelor for most of my life, so I don't want to say I can. I want to actually usually warn females that I don't try to fool them or anything, but sometimes I pick up on that girls like me a little more than they probably should, or they're overlooking some flaws I know that they don't like. And I kind of have to explain, like, look, I've been on a lot of first dates. I'm pretty good at maintaining a good, well, I usually like to tell people everything that's wrong with me up front, but because I have a little bit of a sense of humor to myself, I think some people just think I'm kidding around about that. Uh, no, no, no. It's actually really serious. It's just that, people will see what they want to see out of you, which is why one of my favorite movies ever is American Psycho, because the idea everyone thought that he was the nicest guy ever when he's trying to tell them, listen, I'm a serial killer. Or was he? That is going to be actually a discussion I want to have. That's got to be a podcast at some point in time. I got to have the full-fledged American psycho discussion with people because it's only growing with popularity. It seems like where there's a lot of memes, but here's one of the things I hate about memes. This is just going to be a complete free flowing conversation. I'm just going from one to the other. We'll eventually touch on some stuff. If you're tuning in with this one, you might get a gem or here or there. uh is It's really kind of sucks that things have been popularized by memes, especially if you're somebody that has a good memory. Because I used to work with a younger guy who had not seen a lot of what we consider classic movies. So the idea that, there's all these certain references that find their way into the vernacular over time that a younger person just may not catch on to, because also you got to remember stuff that I watched that when I was younger isn't cool anymore. Okay. Revenge of the Nerds used to be an uplifting comedy. Now it's a date rape film. So uh, I want to say that, you get the memes that come out there, but you get the context to them a little bit. So it's to the point that I've watched movies with somebody where they see a scene and they're like, oh, this is where the meme is from. And then if they I like to hang out with people that can form a thought. They can usually kind of deduce, oh, wait, that's probably what happened. So you can ruin some classics now on this with some of the memes that happen out there, but the Bateman memes are completely out there. So, but anyways, people just kind of see what they want to see. It's been a struggle of mine for a while. Anyway, so I'm still single. So if anyone likes what they see, you can slide in the old DMs. I'm always willing. I'm traveling across America. I can meet you just about anywhere. If you live near a major league city, let's meet up for a date. You won't be bored. Let's just say that much. Will you like me? I don't know, but I at least entertain, or you'll at least have a fucking story for your friends. That much I can promise you. So, which who knows if happened. I couldn't tell when I was in Milwaukee. I'll be completely honest. Milwaukee, your city kind of weirded me the fuck out a little bit. I kind of sense that again now. Maybe this is just the narcissistic, elitist asshole of New York for me, which some people think I'm out of my mind for thinking that I might think that, but I don't know. I don't think that the way that New York works to me is that I feel like by New York standards, a lot of people tell me I'm a nice guy, and then when I go out other places, I kind of feel like I have to scale it back, or I can kind of tell, ooh, I might have went a little too far there, and I wasn't even trying to. Like I gotta, scale it back just a little bit. Milwaukee, I had a lot of that. It's just that I felt like that the speed of things in different parts of the country goes a little bit slower. Like I remember being in Kentucky one time, being at Keeneland Racetrack, and again, lovely Southern gentleman was working as the teller, but it's like, New York, the teller doesn't even want to fucking take your bet. He wants you out of his face as fast as possible. So usually he can go back to hating life because he knows that the next person behind him is just going to inconvenience him yet again. When I was the teller there, the guy's giving me change and he's kind of like, and a one and a two. And he nice and charming and stuff. But I'm kind of like, yo, dude, I got places to be, man. You can give me my fucking money now. Like, I don't do that. When I was in Milwaukee, the first thing that kind of stood out to me was I always have the war on Google Maps as far as when I'm driving someplace, whatever amount of time they say it's going to take me. I will say Google Maps is pretty good on that. I do try to beat the times. Doesn't happen as often as it used to in the Garmin days, as I'll call it, because that one kind of probably calibrated things differently. But the walking one, again, I can only thank my mother for this. If Olympic power walking was a thing that she knew about when she was younger, I probably am from a gold medalist. My mother can, walking 4 miles an hour to her that's like a reasonable pace to her, which for most people, that's, if you, when you look on any health apps, if you're getting like under 18 minutes a mile, which is like three and change, they kind of consider that a pretty brisk walk. My mother used to do like a 5 mile loop in an hour. So that means that she was doing, what, 12-minute miles walking. I know people that can't run that. I actually know people that are in good shape now. Granted, when you run distances, people, that's a whole different thing. But I saw that it was 4 miles from my hotel in Milwaukee, from the train station in Milwaukee to my hotel. And what's the best way to see a city? Like, there's the different levels of saying you've been somewhere. Like, if you've been to the airport in a city, I'm sorry, you have not been to that city. If you've only been to a stadium in that city, you've at least seen it and you've driven through a little bit of it. Now, some stadiums are on the outskirts of town. I wouldn't even give you the pass on that one. I say you gotta at least be able to, you gotta at least eat one meal in the city that you can't eat where you came from, which we'll be hinting on that one in a second. I am ready to unload on Chipotle or anybody who likes it, or at least that's what I've been doing on the internet all day. Again, Sco525, you can follow it on X. But um, you want to at least have the sampling there. But I'm just like looking, it's 4 miles, and I'm like looking and I kind of see it's just a straight walk. Now, the best part about what I do, I'm calling it's a new passion of mine, just aside from going to the baseball games that I've been going to. I call it urban exploring, which, by the way, if you're just really just dropping into this is just following up that I've been visiting ballparks all summer. The St. Louis Cardinals have kind of taken my love of them away from them, but I still do love baseball. So I'm just trying to watch as much good baseball as I possibly can. They're playing a little better. Maybe I'm the fucking bad luck charm and they can just kind of keep doing that. Whenever I'm watching them, though, it's just there's nothing on the Cardinals that really makes me go, I can't miss this. The best, most exciting thing, I guess, Michael Ciani in center field is, he's probably one of the better guys out there now, or according to some metrics is. And the Mason Wynn being able to rip a throw from shortstop is something else to see. But you're watching the tail end of some sad career, or you're watching the tail end of some good careers right now with Goldie and Arenado, and just kind of a team that tried to put it together that it doesn't look like they're going to be there. Stringing it along a little bit with the veteran pitching signings like we had, and probably going to compete for a wild card spot, and front office can say, oops, we just missed it. That's what they do. Enough with that shit though. So yeah, so I've been traveling around. So I got the 4 mile walk in Milwaukee, and I'm looking along the way because, again, when a different city, I'm from a not very flattering area, or every city is going to have the places you don't want to be. Albany, New York, Troy, New York, Rochester, New York. Those are the three cities I spent most of my time in. Look them up. They're not exactly, no one's really trying to move there if they can help it, unless they're moving from a shittier place, I guess. People from New York City that can't afford to live there move up here now, I guess I would say. But but the whole thing is that you just, I really want to remind people with the crime in cities is that I find that people that actually are aware of their surroundings and are minding their own business usually fare pretty well. Whenever you see a video of a random attack on the internet, we never see what leads up to it. Like I remember seeing one when there were some riots in Rochester around, I mean, it was like 4 years ago at this time was a pretty fucking interesting time to be alive in this country. I'll say that much. A lot of people want to forget it. Some people have forgotten it, but I just remember seeing a video where, it was a shop owner in Rochester. It was an old lady, and these younger gentlemen, we'll call them, that don't look a lot like me, were beating the shit out of this lady. And I'm like, yeah, you can kind of tell she may have called them a name before that whole thing happened, but I digress. So I'm just like, okay, let's, get a best chance to actually see the city a little bit. I will say I did not see a lot of Milwaukee. The ballpark in Milwaukee is on the west side of town, actually almost bordering on, it's in West Milwaukee, and I ended up actually being on the edge of a town called West Allis, I guess. Um, but I walked in Milwaukee, and I mean, walked from the train station. I know, like, an industrious looking area. I was walking through there. It's a weird feeling when you are walking somewhere and you see cars parked. For about an hour, I walked, which probably means, or at one point, I probably walked about a full mile, I should say. About a full mile I walked. I did not walk past a single other person. I saw like a block or two ahead of me, someone going from one street to another, maybe. I maybe had like two or three cars drive past me. And I'm kind of trying to figure out, like, am I just in like I'm like, is this like such a bad area that everyone just stays away from it? Like, am I in Amsterdam from The Wire, only people haven't woken up yet or something? But again, when you're in doing the urban exploring, as I call it, Uber is your lifeline. You're always, and you're in a major city, there's never more than a 5 minute wait for an Uber, I would say. And you can also, again, if once you're kind of pick up the sense of things, you can see where you don't want to go and where you want to go. I walked through Milwaukee the entire time. And, once I started getting to where I was seeing people, like I saw a park with some actual things in it. So I was like, okay, that's probably not the worst area. Um, I would see people that were sitting out on their porches that, they looked like they were going on some hard times, but they didn't seem like, like the criminal hard times. It's kind of what I picked up on Milwaukee is it's a blue collar town, and blue collar is kind of going away slowly but surely in this country. It's got a high unemployment rate. So a lot of the property is very, very affordable. But the crime that you deal with there, I was looking at, it wasn't necessarily a lot of violent crimes, but there was a lot of theft in that area. So here was the thing that I did. And I mean, I realized that I probably could be made. I was hot as shit, and I was wearing the wife beater underneath there. And I'm like, if you're a guy walking around in a wife beater and a pair of shorts with a backpack and not the cleanest of sneakers, now I probably shouldn't have had the Apple Watch, and I probably shouldn't have had the brand new Cardinals hat to kind of fit my look. But I'm like, I just look like any other guy that's just struggling walking through this city right now. Made it through totally fine. Just 4 miles in a city that, just kind of, the weirdest part was at nighttime, I'll say. So I go to the game, Milwaukee, the ballpark. I will at some point have to update the ballpark rankings. I have to say that it was probably one of my, I mean, I got some different opinions. Really want to say it was my second favorite ballpark I've been to this summer, and I've been to 7 ballparks now. I'll give you the list of how I rank them. It was my second favorite. If you watched earlier, you can imagine. I did have a short where I ranked all those. What I might rank that, but it was more than a baseball game. It was an event, and I do like the idea that the name on the outside really matches what's going on the inside. It used to be called Miller Park, and it definitely used to. They're trying to back off of the heavy booze theme. As I joke around, my generation was the one that ruined drinking for everybody else, and I've got some videos that could probably prove that one to you too, because younger people do not drink the way we do. And I actually got to see this happen in front of me because I didn't grow up for a while. I stayed behaving like I was in college up until about what we were just talking about 4 years ago. Yeah, actually more like 2 or 3 years ago was when I stopped acting like a college kid. 2 years ago is when I started acting like an adult. There was a little bit in there where I was not quite there. But I started noticing over time that the way that the attitudes of the way behaviors and the way the kids drank, it definitely went down. Now to the point that NAs and mocktails, the fact that people pay fucking $3.50 for a can of liquid death, which can maybe pigeon into someone else I'm going to talk about in a little bit. It's just to make it look like you're drinking. Let's be real here. The only reason when I go out to a bar, I was at the baseball games. I'm enough of I liked my booze enough that I will actually still drink NA beers, because believe it or not, the people that say they didn't drink it for the taste, they drank it for the way it made them feel. Maybe I had a different problem, and I mostly like the way, or I didn't think it was making me feel as strongly as I would, so I would keep drinking it. But I legitimately, like, if you could get me a spiritless Jameson, or if you get me Jameson that had that, like, I love that punch in the chest feeling. A fucking Guinness NA is fucking amazing. And if it can give me a buzz too, like, really, if they started infusing a beer with THC that I could still get my buzz on in a different way, but have it in the taste of that, I would still do it. Um, I'll drink, just because like and you go out, I'll drink an NA beer just because if I'm at a bar, I feel like I'm occupying prime real estate. They're there to make money, and I'm just a guy who's sitting there not spending any. And also maybe it just kind of calms the aesthetic. Like sometimes you maybe don't want to have, but also it is a good way of announcing if you drink the NA because, well, I will say bartenders every time I've done this, whenever I go, hey, what kind of NAs do you have here? I will say Heineken NA is pretty much usually the standard on that one. Whenever I ask for that, the bartender reacts like that, like they're wondering if they're about to be robbed or something would be the best way I could describe it, where they get a little uneasy and a little unsure of themselves. I think it's mostly because they're thinking to themselves, when was the last time I served an NA? How fucking old is this one? But whatever, it is what it is. If you're drinking Heineken NA, Heineken always tastes skunked anyway. So an old Heineken NA isn't really, well, I think it was to a certain point though. If it gets old enough, that actually does maybe re-ferment a little bit into more alcohol, but who cares? Um, I don't think that I'm necessarily we're not gonna touch that one. Might have a guest on in the future where I'm curious if he's gonna want to be on with me. It's we interacted about a baseball story. He has a blog about recovery and sobriety. I'm not sure, you got to gauge these because I'm on a little bit of the different end of the spectrum of sobriety. Well, for starters, I'm California sober, I guess you would call it. I still smoke weed, but I do not drink alcohol anymore. Apparently, there's a new one now called Midwest sober, which is where you just don't drink liquor, you just drink beer. Bad idea. I'll just go on with that. I tried that one before. It's a great way to gain a lot of weight and piss a lot and not really get as drunk as you'd like to. But back to that one because you get people pay for a liquid death 350 just to make the idea of looking drinking somewhere that's all connected somewhere along the ways. But yeah, so the ballpark, the Miller Park thing. NA beers, this is what I like. Oh yeah, when you order an NA beer, that's what I was going with. You order the NA beer, they always have that little bit of a like, that they always just seem very unsure, like they're cautious. And I swear, even when they open the bottle, they're almost like worried a fucking genie's gonna jump out or a bomb's gonna go off or something. And then they hand it to you and then they get away from you. And they're like, oh my God, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? Sometimes I've noticed club soda is a good one. I will tell you one time, this was before I ever considered being sober, but I remembered one time I was drinking a club soda just because the girl I was with wasn't drinking and I was kind of someone who was known to drink and I didn't really want to tell her what was going on in my life too much. So I had the club soda, I went to the bathroom, and then I came back and some bartenders I would tell if I was trying to, maybe keep it easy a little bit. So that way they maybe wouldn't serve me so many mistakes or they wouldn't just pour me a pint without me asking, which sometimes they still did anyways. Never, I appreciate everyone that did that for me, by the way. Not your fault, mine. But I went to then she ordered me a vodka tonic, thinking they're a vodka soda, thinking that's what I was drinking. Came back and for me, to be honest with you, a single shots in a drink I never really noticed. So I had that, and then the bartender was kind of like, "Hey, did you know if there was booze in that?" And I kind of was like, now that you mentioned this, I kind of yeah. Anyways, but just to kind of create the look that you might be going on, I think it's also a hidden signal to the bartender just to kind of, let them know that you're on the mend, I guess, so to speak. But anyways, so the Family Park, it's like a fucking arcade for kids back there. Again, I would have loved to have been able to participate in some of the things, but it really seemed like it was more for the kids. But they had like really cool batting cages where like the ones where you can like face the live pitcher, like the ones that you see there, all the speed challenges. Just the entire game, because with that retractable roof, they're able to give a good light show. I mean, they even made it entertaining when the Rangers, the opposition, had a pitching change as far as the strobe effects going on there. Just a really good vibe. I will say it can get a little hot in that place because it's a retractable roof, so it is enclosed a little bit. You put a couple tens of thousands of people under the roof, they're just going to build up a little bit of heat, I think. One of the best unexpected, and that why I'm, kind of somebody that I like to post on these on here because I do get feedback from friends of mine who I don't even think actually follow this YouTube channel, but they just, through my social media, they like that they are. I'll be honest, people tell me they're jealous of my life right now. And I'm like, I would be jealous of my life too if I saw somebody else doing this. But I want to say that it's not like my fucking life. I'm like hit the lotto or something like that. I want to let you know that if you do want to do something you want to do, it is more than possible of doing. You just need to get out of your own way right here. So, the one expression that people live by a lot is work smart, not hard. I kind of look at this as why not do both? You can really accomplish a lot of that one. So I'm not even what I would say working as hard as I normally would. The way that I operate in the lovely, fine state of New York that I live in is that 8 months out of the year, it's fucking miserable living here. And 4 months, it's pretty okay. So the 8 months, I work really fucking hard and don't really do very much. And in the 4 months, I do everything I want to, or I seemingly want to. And I, try to be smart about how I do that, So it's kind of like, as a business runs, we'll just kind of say, for example, over time, they start finding ways to trim the fat and becoming more efficient. I'm getting much, much better in traveling. Starting to, when I was in Chicago, it was the first time I'd ever taken a subway in a major city. To be honest with you, the idea of it kind of weirded me out a little bit, or because again, my only experience, and this is a problem that people have, is that people need to experience things for themselves and not necessarily just believe everything that happens on the internet or everything that they see on the news. There's a reason they call it programming. It seems to have programmed people. So, you see all the clips of New York City where you might see the incidents on the subway or whatever, but you know what? There's thousands upon thousands of subways going around the city all day, and you might see a video once a week. So ultimately, 99.9% of them, everything goes just as planned, is fine. And, again, just mind your business. And also, maybe don't be afraid to I don't want to say this one because I could be misreading the situation, but on two occasions in Chicago, I did feel like that something was going to happen, or at least somebody was going to cop an attitude with me. And both times, me just kind of seeming engaged and ready to go, and maybe kind of just having that, like, clenched fist kind of ready to go. People don't like to pick on easy targets for the most part. Well, in some cases, I will say that I always laugh that I'm usually the smallest guy of my crowd. And that's actually something I will say right now to give you an idea of the drinker that I was. I was Floyd Mayweather, okay? I pound for pound would say that if you were, well, towards the end there, we started getting a little heavier, or maybe that wouldn't resonate as much. But when I was a college age person, there was not a person at 155 under the sun that could fucking hang with me. I'll be upfront with that one. And if they did, it was because they could do cocaine. I didn't even get into that for a very, very long time. Should not be something I should be proud of. I'm just saying that this is just kind of a matter of fact. But that's kind of why I don't really miss it as much, because I left it all on the field. Yeah, for anybody that this is the first episode they got here, you're like, who the fuck what is wrong with this guy? I don't know. We'll find out at some point. Maybe I'll eventually get a producer that'll stop me from doing this. Maybe I'll actually start storyboarding this stuff a little more. But for now, let's just fire stuff out there. This is an episode that's being released on a Saturday night, which I think is probably one of the worst times to release it. Theory. And so you're probably going to notice a change in quality. Eddie's about back. Okay, perfect. So Milwaukee, little hot there. I do keep somebody active. People who comment on stuff, I had somebody tell me, they were like, "Hey, are you going to get your picture taken with Bob Uecker?" And Bob Uecker is one of my favorite. Harry Doyle was one of the improv every line that he used in Major League. When you're that funny, you're just that good. Geez, far along, and my mics are going to fucking shit on me. We're going to try to keep the content, fellas. Anyways, so because I did record 2 fucking episodes yesterday that I had this issue going on, I was not happy with. We're too far along. We're just gonna fucking stick with it. There, Yeti. You fucking sack of shit, Yeti. Okay. Anyways, brief cycle moment. So, Bob Uecker, also known by, if you ever go on, Artie Lang always tells the story about Bob Uecker being one of the funniest people ever. I'll let you look up that one because I'm never going to tell a story as good as Artie Lang, especially when Artie Lang was there. Actually, sometimes I can tell a story better than Artie Lang because he was so fucked up on shit for a while that I don't think he remembers things as well as I do for him, because I have probably listened to shit more. It's probably between Adam Carolla or Artie Lang, whose content I have listened to more of in my entire life. Bill Simmons would probably be pretty close too. Again, those are some ideas of the influences that I come from a little bit. And if you listen to those shows, I do try to say that I heard somewhere. If I do cite something I heard on one of those shows, I'm never going to be one of those assholes who tries to pass off somebody else's shit as my own. It's just I may forget who to give credit to. I do find that this is another sidebar funny story about, yeah, actually, no, we're going back to Bob Uecker. Bob Uecker, He's the announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of baseball players, very self-deprecating, but also a funny guy. Anyways, they've got I didn't, when they said get your picture taken with Bob Uecker, I was like, you think there's really a fucking chance I can meet Bob Uecker? My buddy told me that there's a fucking statue of Bob Uecker. It's in section 422 in American Family Field. It was about 120 degrees, I want to say, roughly up there. I actually have the video that I might actually post just to tag along with this one to link to it. Um, yeah, I'm actually going to do that afterwards. But I had that one. I go up there, just take the picture with them, and it's just a cool thing of that, like, wow, I didn't randomly do this here. Now, I did tell two girls who were borderline attractive. We'll call them Milwaukee eights, probably, like, South Beach fives or something here, but whatever. But maybe even fours. But any girl that's in a baseball game, two girls sitting in a baseball game wearing baseball jerseys, that's fucking hot. Doesn't really matter what they look like. All women are beautiful, and so you can always find at least one feature on some girls. But yeah, two girls at a baseball game, that's hot shit. And if I had a little gall to me, maybe I would have tried to make things happen. But I was traveling, so and I was tired. But and also I was a sweaty mess that they're going up 4 flights of stairs, but they were also pretty sweaty messes too. Actually, yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea because I don't know. I'm not gonna make the joke I was gonna make. But yeah, so got to go through the whole experience in Milwaukee. Good game. And I actually had the ideal experience that I look for at a baseball game. There was a father son sitting behind me that they travel the country going to see baseball games. There was a guy sitting next to me that he was like the hardcore Brewers fan, but was also like, not going to hold it against me that I was wearing a St. Louis Cardinals hat. One of the security guards, I'm pretty sure if he had his way, if he was able to get one get out of jail free card that night, I'm pretty sure he would have punched me in the face. Not that I did anything wrong. It was just kind of, I might be calling out for attention a little bit when you wear the Carlin was right shirts, because, especially in Milwaukee where he was arrested for the 7 dirty words speech, but also wearing a St. Louis Cardinals game to a Texas Rangers and a Brewers game. And I was going to say that if people were going to give me real attitudes in the stands, I was just going to sit there watching highlights of the 2011 postseason run of the Cardinals, watching them beat the Brewers. I believe they beat them in 5 or 6. I believe it was 6, actually, in the LDS or the LCS. And then the other, the possibly one of the more entertaining World Series ever, the greatest baseball game that ever happened, Game 6 of the 2011 World Series, beating the Rangers, which because of my alcoholism, I did not get to see live. Yeah, that's a true story. We'll maybe go over that one in its own unique episode sometime. Maybe even have some guests of mine that were friends of mine that were with me that day. And also were wondering what the hell happened to me when I disappeared for a couple hours that night. But the security guard, when I walked down the first time, doesn't ask me for my ticket. He asked me for the ticket. Second time I walk back, he's like, yeah, I don't need to see your ticket. I remember you. And I kind of playfully, like, oh, the Carlin was right shirt. He's like, no, I'm not going to tell you what it is that I remember about you. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, the Cardinals fan thing. On the way out of there, I did say, just to I can tell when somebody doesn't like me, kill them with kindness. And I walked up to him, sir, I just wanted to thank you for what a wonderful time I had at your ballpark. Thank you so much. And he just gave me a look of like, if I was not in fucking on the clock right now, I would punch you in the face. And he's probably some guy I didn't want to get punched in the face for. He's the guy that works security at the floor level of the Brewers Stadium. Not to say that people weren't still drinking there, but again, like I said, they were doing Coors Edge there. I think it's funny they call their NA beer Coors Edge because I would say that without the alcohol, it's got no edge to it. But that's my naming. And then I think that there was the Sam Adams one was the one that they had in Chicago, which I kind of found to be interesting, that it's a Boston thing. Maybe they got a good deal on it. Theirs is either called Not the Haze or Just the Haze, whatever it is. It's, they always try to make it playful for you. But again, the travel just came and went, and I'm back here. I must say that this is one of the perks of traveling solo. I almost really made out on this deal, but I did not. I still got a little bit of a benefit for it, but traveling solo, you don't have to worry about pissing anybody off. And honestly, not having a girlfriend, I don't have to worry about pissing anybody off. Actually, sometimes maybe I wish I did have some people to piss off, and then I do piss people off and I'm going, nope, I kind of like this a little bit better. But when you're flying out in the afternoon, typically when I was You check out of your hotels in most cities at 11 o'clock. You can pay for extended stays or whatever like that, but no, it's usually a waste of time. Usually your best flight times, your cheapest flight times are usually earlier in the day. So depending on where you go, but I got the thing of that on my way there. The idea was planted in my head. I've done this before. If they ask you to give up your seat on a flight, you do get taken care of pretty well because it's usually, as I come to find out from the Delta employee that I was talking to, is that it's not that they sold too many seats to too many customers. It's just that sometimes they need to ship employees from city to city or there's a shortage of them because weather does happen around this country and sometimes some planes don't make it to where they're supposed to be and some people that were on those planes are supposed to work on other planes, so you end up in this situation. So they are trying to be able to keep other flights intact, kind of, so that's why they're doing that. Now you volunteer for it, or at least I volunteered for it. A little bit of a little how to do on this one. This one, they started off at $200, which if I had to guess on this one, they were willing to give up the seat for a little bit of an amount, but they just didn't have the full plan in there. When they said, is anyone willing to give up their seat? And they said, we'll be willing to give you $200. I started to make a motion and the woman kind of saw me and I'm like, $200 now. I'm sitting in my head. I had heard when I was in Albany that there was a flight they were giving $1,300 for someone to give up. I wouldn't have even gone on my trip if they were going to give me $1,300. I would have made $500 on what it cost me to book everything. So, I mean, yeah, kind of, I guess, because it's all flight credit, but actually, no, even better with Delta. Delta doesn't just do flight credit. Another reason to fly with them. And I just think that they provide the best flight experience so far that I've been with all the airlines I've gone on. But so they start opening up the bidding and then they'll just kind of periodically up it. It went from 200. Okay. Then we went to 400. Nah, it's still not going to get it done for me. Then they do the slow roll to 500. Nah, you got to even at least go. And then it's up to 600. Now it's 600 though. I'm trying to hold out for 1,000. I start noticing a little bit of activity amongst people as far as people who weren't on their phones suddenly are on their phones. They're starting to check the calendars. Or because older people, it's one of the things of that I'm kind of one of the not only was I a cell phone salesman for 6 years, but I also grew up somewhat with this technology. Older people love to use the voice command thing. So you can hear call such and such. I'm like, you're calling a woman's name. It's not because, honey, I'm going to be late. It's, hey, is it okay if I do this type shit? Probably. So 600, I'm still not quite gonna be there yet. Although I'm kind of like, I'm gonna be kicking myself if I see that I let it walk for 600. Understand what I do for a living. I'm a sales guy sitting in a location with nothing happening. I do that for free sometimes, technically. So if you're gonna give me what I'll just give you an idea of this. I do not make anywhere near the $800 they were going to give me for $700 an hour. I probably am lucky if I make a third of that. We'll just kind of say to give you an idea of my income level, probably around maybe a little more than a third of that per hour. But anyways, so they are going to offer this one. And I'm like, I've got all the trips in the world I want planned. And now this makes that I'm getting money for nothing effectively. I mean, I can walk around an airport. I can read a book. I'm like, I don't have to worry about getting loaded up on booze anymore at the airport. So I'm like, even if I want to go to, there was a Longhorn Steakhouse. Now, Detroit's airport, I will say this, Detroit's airport might be, if I, out of all the airports I've been to in America, aside from McLaren in Vegas, which usually when you're on the way out of Vegas, you want to get out of there as soon as possible. And then maybe the slot machines would get old after a while. But when you're in Detroit's airports, they have casino wagering on FanDuel and DraftKings there. You got all the sports going on that you can still bet on. It's a big enough airport. If you like to walk around, you could probably take you about an hour and change to walk from one end of it to the other and back, maybe even two. And they got they had a steakhouse, they had a Longhorn, which, it is what it is, but, at least you know what you're going to get. I mean, it's not, you're getting actual decent quality. I mean, for the casual chain place, I'd say that that's probably the best place I've ever been to, Longhorn, but that, here and there, they even had a fucking spa that if I wanted to get a massage. So let's say I spent $300 there. I still got $500 for that's another trip for me. But we get to the $600, people are scurrying on there. Then they say 800, and now two people who are still on their phones make the move. And I'm going, oh, they're asking for two volunteers, and there are two people ahead of me. But I have noticed that these people have not made their decision yet. So that's when it's okay to be the New York asshole, because I'm never going to see these people again. And hey, we're talking about money on the line here. That's when I'm having no problem going, hey, if they're not ready to make their decision, my answer is yes. And they kind of turn and look at me because it's like, hey, listen, first come, first serve is how the line works. But if you're not ready to be served, you're not in line. Okay. And then now some things I could get that, like, but you're a douchebag if you're in line and you're not ready. Just throwing that out there. You're a douchebag and the people behind you hate you and the person that's waiting on you hates you. Again, extenuating circumstances, but if you're on the phone, that's really the worst reason to be holding up the line. I'll tell you that much. So going to there and the guy looks at me, he's like, oh, this. I'm like, well, do you have an answer? And he was like, oh, I'm waiting. I'm like, my answer is yes right now. So I at least get into the line there. That guy did not get it because he probably had to call his wife. And there was a woman who was probably alone that, or she did just say yes too. Ended up not needing it, which was kind of a real buzzkill because now I've got myself wired that I'm going to spend 8 hours at 7 hours at the airports and get $800. I'm already starting to look at my next trips that I thought I couldn't afford potentially. This is a great hack. What I'm going at is that give yourself time to, if you have to potentially wait a couple hours at the airports, you can earn a couple bucks there. There's plenty of ways to entertain yourself. That's the little bit of a hack that I'm going to go on because I was able to one time after I spent way more money than I ever planned on spending on a trip because, well, me and my buddy went to St. Louis and Kansas City and weather hit. So we stayed there for an extra day, which meant everything costed a little more. And then instead of being at a baseball game one day, I was drinking my sorrows away in a fucking shitty hotel room in Kansas City. We ended up getting offered $800. I remember sitting there going, I have plans to go to Seattle and I'm looking at the flights and they're like $600-700. I got to figure out how I can afford this because I was an idiot back then. And then all of a sudden they offered me $800 or so a flight. Problem solved. By even still volunteering for this, what ended up happening, they did not need to give up my seat. They still gave me $100. So I still technically on a day off was able to kind of finance this lifestyle a little bit. You got to be smart with things is where I go on of that being able to do this, of that I do things great outside of where I live. Where I live is, it's not a shithole or anything like that. But for example, every time I see what the price of a TV costs, a nice new bigger TV, I'm like, that's a fucking road trip. Let's get me out of this place. Now, in the wintertime, I'll think differently because I won't want to travel in the winter as much. I will maybe want that nice TV, but in the summertime when it's nice, why would I want to have things that keep me inside my house more when there's so much more to see in this world around me? I'm just even trying to see what's in this country, not even the world yet. We'll hammer America down and figure out what's going on there. Because I'll be honest, again, I'm looking for a new place to move. I am really kind of think I want to make it a goal that I don't want to die in the same area code that I was born in, or that's kind of we're getting to that point of things with life because I've just done everything there is to do here. So why not just I'll hunker down a little bit here and there, but then I'm gonna go do what I want someplace I've never been, and that's called life, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about you can't take anything with you, but you can take a bunch of great thoughts and experiences. And the fact that I keep my brain kind of sharp, I can hopefully remember a decent amount of them. But this is one that I kind of want to end this on. I did mention that the 350 for a can of liquid death. It's a can of fucking water. I can't believe that. Like I remember when I was younger, or when I was a college student, I was a marketing major for a while, and they said that the ability, like, there used to be the way of saying a challenge for marketing was you need to be able to sell water to a human. The idea being that nobody would ever pay for water because water was always free. And back then they didn't used to pollute the water. I guess we'll kind of go on. Now we kind of did create a false demand, or maybe who knows if it was engineered, actually, the more I think about this one. But now almost there are people that will refuse to drink tap water in any city and will only drink bottled water. Me, I'll drink fucking water out of a fucking toilet if it's going to quench my thirst. And I also don't really get sick. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. Again, as I was telling a woman who was horrified at work today, I tried explaining that I used to sleep on a used mattress that I don't even know who owned it before me in college or whatever like that. And washing my sheets was not a regular thing necessarily. But I also say that never ever get sick. It's a George Carlin bit. Again, I'm going to take the credit of that one because I remember everything George Carlin related, which I can, again, is that, he always talked about how in his neighborhood in New York City growing up, nobody ever, that polio was a big scare there, and none of his friends ever got polio because him and his friends used to swim in the Easton Hudson River, which was filled with raw sewage. And he would say that the polio could not handle their immune systems. It was tempered. They swam in raw shit. So to an extent, my earlier things, hopefully that's what's keeping me alive and not what's going to kill me at some point in time, a little sooner than I want it to be. Anyways, yeah, so Lost that thought. It happens from time to time. Oh yeah, so you get the the can of water thing there. Used to be able to idea selling that one. By the time I got to college, they had revised that phrase to you need to be able to sell ice to an Eskimo because the actual expression of that one was actually completely taken away. We have now gotten to a point that because Theo Von, I believe, is the one that got it going, now convinces people to drink $3.50 cans of water. I have a Brita filter that I bought, and it does just fine for me. I fill up a reusable Yeti sometimes. Again, I sunk a little bit into it the one time, but that's about it. Yeah, I'll survive. So that's just a little thing. I'm trimming that one there. I hate sounding. There's a difference between being cheap and being stupid. Okay, I will, or being intelligent, I guess I would say. Um, if you want to treat yourself, if things are your occasional treats, do what you want that makes you happy. I'm never ever going to tell you that one. It's that things that should be treats, people have turned into everyday habits. Um, Kind of the thing of that's where, getting a coffee out and about every now and again is a nice treat. Um, but ultimately it's not, I can make coffee just as good at home. It's something that if you buy a cup of coffee every day, I always go on with this, if that Mitch McConnell, I made the saying statement of saying that younger people aren't buying houses because they drink coffee and they buy avocado toast, or they eat avocado toast and they buy coffee out every day. On a literal sense, not quite so much. I mean, there is actually some math that could be done that, yes, the amount of money that you would spend on that one, conservatively invested for a couple of years, yes, you'd be able to have a significant down payment on a house. I'm not going to go that route with you. I'm just going to say that in general, though, it's a mindset of that once, and this just be my thing of that. I used to, no matter what, when I left the bar at the end of the night, and I would even apologize. Sometimes it meant I may have been a little bit of a short tip, which is okay because when you are at a bar every day and you normally tip okay, they are okay with maybe the occasional short one because you've probably paid a bill or two for them a couple months. Um, I would always be like, hey, I gotta have at least $2 back because that's the whole thing. I never would want to ask for like small amounts of bills back. I'm like, hey, I know this is gonna sound weird. I just want $2 because the place I go for a cup of coffee, that's exactly how much. I would do two or three of those cups. Again, it just sounds innocent. Again, this is all from the drinking days, and we want to get how much money that used to cost. But the couple dollars a day cumulatively does add up a little bit. So where at the end of the month, if you look at it, if you spend $5 a day, that's $150. I mean, that's the difference between the shitty car and the next level up kind of shit like that. Or, things of that I've realized, like, I have every streaming app under the sun, and then I realized, you know what, let's just cancel all of them. And let's see when the first time I notice I miss one of them is, which the answer has been not very many of them. Free up a bunch of money that way, little things. Just, the idea of, you know, going out to eat is used to be a treat. Like, like when fast food came along, like that was like a family might once a month, hey, we're gonna, have a little treat, have McDonald's there, not to feed ourselves that shit every day. Where I'm going with this is I was on a post today. I was on a porn. I was actually at some point. There's a very, very, very riveting video from a prison cell in the UK, I'll just say out there, and you can search that for all you want. I'm not posting it. But it's yeah, I mean, it's consensual. So it's, she knew that she was being filmed. She's married, and apparently she may be a swinger, but again, that's just type in UK prison guard and you'll find it somewhere, I'm sure. But I see this post earlier where somebody was talking about how they went to Chipotle and they got two bowls, double meat, um, and it came to and chips and soda, and it came to 48 some odd dollars. And they were like, well, how do people afford to go here and stuff? And it's like, well, if you do it once every so often, it's it's an upcharge, but hey, we don't have to cook that night or anything that. We're just gonna take it easy tonight. Every now and again, give yourself that treat. I encourage it. But if you do it every fucking day, there's just a couple of things I have the issue with that, is that it was never meant to be eaten out every day. Now, this guy was going on about saying that this is just for a meal. First off, for starters, the portion sizes that the average American eats is just gone completely out of control. This kind of can stem back probably more from like the supersize me thing, which actually that's an interesting topic to visit at some point. Supersize me turned out to be a complete farce. And now that guy actually passed away because probably from he was apparently an alcoholic while he was filming that. So all of his results about the bad liver that he had that from eating McDonald's were actually from his, personal behaviors. But guy was missing out. Like he's eating a fucking like, this has been the thing. It really does change my behavior a little bit. I've never necessarily been a calorie counter, but you do just kind of go, really? To certain things. I'm all for them listing them on entrees and stuff, but when they do it on desserts, that's a little bit overkill. But the guy like, whatever you eat, a man, let's just call it 2,500 calories about or so. I'm also not a big guy. Everyone's got their things they do, but it's always funny that these really, really big people say they need to eat a certain amount to get by. And it's like, yeah, you just kind of maybe slowly wean off of that one actually. But guys eating a double protein or double meat and stuff like that. Then he leaves out the fact that oh yeah, well we got guac on it, like so people that are going on where Chipotle, as far as when you're out on the road and you're trying to eat a little bit healthier, I get that Chipotle can probably be the lesser of evils. Well, here's the thing. There at every place you go to, there is a healthy option you can do. People love to use that there is a healthy item you can eat at Chipotle. Therefore, eating all Chipotle is healthy is the logic that most people do to make themselves feel good, which is completely untrue. You can take your regular, okay, like I'll take my conventional order on there. I usually get a rice, chicken. I will go light on the sour cream, and I really emphasize the light to them because their idea of light is probably a lot there. But the thing that people do to make this stuff taste good, because that's the whole thing is that we'll go on the calories, is that mostly you're eating junk out of there. The chicken and the rice does not account for very many calories in there. What you're getting are the calories out of the sour cream. I love that people, when they throw a couple shreds of lettuce into something, they think all of a sudden it's a health food. Yeah, that's not really how that goes. But those couple shreds of romaine lettuce, I'm sure are helping you. Also, they're giving you the fucking veggies that when they cook down veggies, they cook all the good shit out of it mostly. It just makes you feel like you're doing something good about yourself. I doubt you're really getting a ton of nutrients from that food, but people convince themselves they are. Again, better than a McDonald's for sure, but the idea that how we're bringing people to this, when's it going to give? Yeah, you don't do this all the time. Then you start getting people that are like, oh yeah, no, I eat this every day and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're probably not that healthy then. I'm like, you probably could be doing a little better because where I go is if you're doing this every day, this has been a new thing with me. It's not that I cook great food or something like that, but I can get by on my own cooking. Whenever someone tells me they don't know how to cook, you're kind of in a roundabout way saying, you know what, I really don't know how to take care of myself. I'm not going to say that I know how to take care of myself. If they shut down our food supply tomorrow, I don't know how to kill something and then turn it into something I can eat. Thankfully, I know some people that do know how to do that, and maybe I could probably buddy up with them somehow or use some of this so-called charm I might think I possess to kind of help them navigate me through life. But that's, here nor there. But the fact that people think that Chipotle is delicious, I really feel bad for you. You've never had a good meal in your life if you think that Chipotle is delicious. Is it edible? Absolutely. Is it nutritious? Somewhat. Is it healthy? Somewhat. It's not going to kill you, but it's there. It's what it's there for. You could make any type of bowl here. Like I'm laughing about this where, again, people that always talk about like when they go to the grocery store, this is another one. Everyone talks about food costs being out of control, which they have gone up. I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to. Mostly the shit that is you shouldn't be eating in the first place has gone up. Like there's nothing better than someone says, how am I supposed to feed a family on this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of wondering that too. It's all fucking processed junk and shit, which is just making you more hungry, by the way. Not trying to be your health coach on or anything like that, but just throwing out there some stuff. I have a fucking 5-pack or 4 pounds of chicken I have in my fridge right now. I got for like $7.50. I got a bunch of rice and I got some vegetables. I can make fucking burrito bowls for the week right now for like $4 or $5 per probably, and they'll be way bigger than anything I get from there. Now, oh, it's not going to taste as good. Well, that's the thing of that their food fucking sucks when you have to put sour cream on it, when you have to put the fucking hot sauce on it. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, that stuff does taste good, but that just means they're masking the junk that they gave you. I'm not trying to disparage anybody that works at Chipotle, but the fact of the matter is if I go to work tomorrow and my job tells me you're fired, there's a Chipotle right next to me. There's been a help wanted sign on it every time I've walked past it. I am really want to say that if the fact that I've never, ever not gotten a job interview that I've actually applied for, except for one that I intentionally showed up drunk to, that might be a different story for another day. I had no interest in getting the job. I just thought it would be funny to be somewhere I did not belong and try to see how long I keep the shtick going. They gave me the full interview. I'll say that much, but they definitely think that they know I was drinking in the parking lot before I showed up. Um, I don't think anyone was going to hire me as their financial advisor. I don't think even if I could have, actually tried to get the job, I don't think anyone would have wanted me to be their financial advisor. I'm your gambling advisor, which means I don't necessarily make you money, but I can certainly help you stop losing money. That's really the best I can do. You need a devil's advocate on a shitty bet. I am your fucking man. Now, when I say that, don't bet that, it doesn't mean bet the other side. It's just that I can play the devil's advocate on gambling pretty fucking well. I usually need to try to do it to myself sometimes. I'm not a little bit of a cold one. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I was winning money on the games I was at. I'll also say that's the part that scares me a little bit about going to these baseball games. It's amazing how much more in the States that there is mobile wagering. You can bet a little more. Anyways, back to Chipotle. Fuck them. So, yeah. So, when you have to fucking load it with sour cream and shredded cheese and guac is, I'm not a huge, I find guac to be one of the most overrated. And I've had people that said this is the best guac. And I'm like, it's just kind of a texture to me at best. The even like, I don't like the taste of onions, and even if I ever taste onions in guac, it's usually maxed up by, avocado to that avocado. I don't know. It's just that it's nothing against, and I've had actual authentic Mexican food too. That's another thing. And it's just has never been my palate, I guess. I like beans, I like beef, and I rice and all that stuff. But it's just ultimately it's never been my thing. But trust me, the people, nobody has ever that's actually had good Mexican food has ever said go eat at Chipotle. So if it's delicious, good for you. You probably like a bunch of garbage that's in there for the first part of there. Yeah, so that's just kind of the idea that there are people that are complaining all the time about things that are still buying them. People that are doing the fast food right now, I kind of have realized most people food costs. Like, yes, things that get more expensive. Well, you have to then make a decision. What things are really important? How am I going to adjust? Okay. We got to work hard and we got to work smart. That's the best way to get going forward on these things. So you start realizing, okay, I don't, maybe we don't need as much of this or much of that. We cut these out a little bit more, just little simple things there. No, most people with fast food, they remind me of cigarette smokers in the late 90s and the early 2000s. There was a point in time when people said if cigarettes got to $5 a pack, they were going to quit. I'm related to some of these people. I think that a pack of cigarettes is coming up on 20 bucks now, kind of thing. If you're a cigarette smoker, I understand. I used to love to smoke. It is what it is, but you've got a legitimate drug problem almost with the amount of money you're spending on there. I mean, I'm seriously thinking that if you smoke a pack of cigarettes every day, yeah, that's a luxury vehicle you could be buying. I mean, that is just world changing. So that gives you an idea of that. I used to have a budget set in place for me to be as drunk as possible on the money that I make, comparable to what I make right now. I also used to really not bat an eyelash at ringing up a credit card bill. Now we paid off most of those. We're towing the interest-free waters, but I think I'll be okay on this one. So far, anyways, I'm getting better at it. But yeah, so the fact that Chipotle just fucking sucks. I don't know when it got so popular. There's one on literally everywhere you go. And that's kind of the whole thing of that. I will never, ever, when I go on the road, ever consider an option of a fast food place. Like there are sometimes even fast food places I have never had that I'm kind of like, why would I get this? Because ultimately it's just shitty food that they found a way to make taste good. Okay. Like Raising Cane's. Wait, you made good chicken tenders? Color me fucking shocked. How the hell did you ever fucking figure that one out? It's like, this was always one I loved when I lived in Buffalo. Oh, we got the best wings out here. Really? You're the only fucking geniuses that figured out how to drop wings in a deep fryer and then coat it in a fucking sauce. I will say the one thing that Buffalo does have going for them, they're the only ones that eat it with blue cheese. Ranch fucking sucks. I'll fight on that hill every day. And if you're eating wings, I will always love this one that people will say that they do not understand that people in Buffalo eat their wings with blue cheese, yet they're the one that fucking introduced the idea of the Buffalo style wing, which popularized it around here. I understand that there was a wing that was meant before and that the white people took it from the black person. That's one of the stories that's actually legitimate. Actually, I do have a couple race topics maybe to get onto. Not that, I mean, I can't make myself look much worse, I guess, at some points that I already do. But You're just, like I'm gonna go to Raising Cane's and get a chicken tender. Chicken tender is a fucking chicken tender, okay? Sometimes they're made a little better. I'll give you an idea. When the person that makes your food actually gives a fuck about how they're making it, it's generally gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna tell you right now, most people that I see working at those places, and I'm not trying to disparage them, they would give anything to not be there, okay? They're just trying to get a paycheck and get the fuck out of there, which they're just doing enough to keep their jobs. Sometimes I don't even know about that. I have definitely had a couple of fast food places that I'm like, I'm never going back to that one. So, but I also haven't eaten really into that shit in a couple of years, or maybe we're coming up. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't eat it ever, but for reference, there's a Chipotle about a quarter mile from me, I would say. When I was drunk, I used to eat a little bit more. When I was lazy or when I was not as smart with money, I guess I'd say I probably haven't gotten anything from Chipotle in fucking 6 months or so. And I'll probably be fine with that. Again, there may be the time that some extenuating circumstances happen. I might get one. I'm not saying never, but again, that would just be a little thing. I don't look at myself and go, okay, I need to have a $15 burrito bowl every day that's after I went to Starbucks and got again, people who say they like coffee, again, I'll harp on this one, but coffee should not cost a lot of money, and it's something people drink every day, and it blows my mind how much people spend on it. I'll just leave it at that one, only to not drink the actual product that they think they're drinking. If you get a coffee that costs more, if it has a little more than a little bit of cream and sugar, you don't like coffee, just drink fucking soda at a certain point, or you can get a milkshake and just fucking buy Coke at a certain point if you're getting that many shots in it, or get some fun. You can find something out there that'll keep you going through your day. Energy drinks awful, but they get the job done sometimes. Although steering off of them, believe it or not, this is not me on an energy drink. This is me after being awake from 6 o'clock this morning, and I'm recording at 11:15 at night. And this is probably the longest episode, and really might be submitted to some type of psychiatric ward to maybe check and see if this guy's okay. But yeah, so fuck Chipotle. And where I would go on with this one is that the wave of the future. This is where another thing I've been a little smarter with. Listen to people. I do like the client to be the smartest person in the room, but sometimes I know I'm not the smartest person in the room, and that's the time you're probably going to find me listening more. I know that there are people that know more things than me. That's actually what I think makes me smart is I listen to people that I know more things than me, and then I absorb and steal their knowledge from them and then take my own spin on it and turn it into my own form of knowledge. But there's a stock that my boss at work told me about a while ago that has been doing well, and I think that this is going to be the rival to this because people are complaining about the prices of Chipotle. There's Chipotle on every block now. Again, people are just complaining about the prices of this stuff. There's always a line every time I drive past one because that's what people do. They just like to bitch and do nothing about it. And that's kind of where I'm starting to try to separate my people. I'm trying to be more about being let's be about it, let's not talk about it kind of thing. And so far, I'm holding up to my word on this one. I mean, as long as I keep posting you pictures of the ballpark, I got some great plans. We're going to be doing 2 cities in one day. And guess what? Now that it's because I have the extra subscribers on this shit, I can actually do a live stream, possibly from a stadium. I'm not sure what the rules are on that one. Hey, I've never been afraid to ruffle a few feathers, though. But Cava is the name of the company, Cava. They are available in some bigger cities right now. They're still in a very, very early phases of things. They aren't even franchised yet. I bought in at this at around $50. We're in the mid 90s around right now. So, got a couple bucks going on there. They are a Mediterranean style grain bowl. They offer a lot more variety. And as I go on, I do my market research on this stuff. My market research is to type things into Twitter. The chicks love this stuff. So what happens is the chicks find loser guys to buy this stuff for them because they're actually smart enough to not spend it on themselves. Because once they start talking about your money, they're very, very careful with it. Or once yours and their money become together, I seem to notice, I'm not married or anything, but I just kind of have followed these things along, is that when you are dating, they want you to spend all of the money in the world on them. But then when you are together, they need you to be financially responsible. It's a little bit of a change up they pull. They kind of bait you into the marriage thing. It scares me a little bit, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't have enough female listeners to worry about pissing anybody off. So I'll just go ahead and say that. But Kava, I'm starting to see compare. It's a little bit on the lower price point on there. Now, again, is it going to be garbage food? I don't know. I've yet to have it yet, but that one I will at least give a try. if you want to try, so if you're going to be someone that eats the fast food, give it a shot, get a little variety, save a couple bucks on there. If you're someone trying to make a couple bucks, if I tell you and to tell two friends to buy this stock and everyone goes and buys one, the more people buy it, the better it is for all of us. So let's get in on this one. Let's get on the kava train. And then maybe this takes the Scho-Zone to the next level. So this is a goal. I have a couple set of goals of what I'm trying to accomplish out here. And I've got plans on doing a couple of them. I'm going to do 2 cities, 2 games, 1 day in the middle of July. I'm going to be doing on the 24th. I'm going to be doing Pittsburgh with a buddy on this one too, a good friend of mine too. So this is going to be a really, really fun day because as we get older, he's someone I text with. You start wondering, not that we would never want to see each other again. Life just gets in the way. I ran into somebody today I haven't seen in 20 years. Do you know what it's like to just instantly recognize somebody, see them and know who they are and realize, hey, I haven't seen you since, well, I'm not even 40 yet, and I haven't seen you in 20 years. Wow, I haven't seen you in over half my life, and I grew up with you when I used to spend my entire life around you. Um, Time just has a way of getting in the way of that. You have people that you don't even dislike that you just don't talk to because you've gone so long without talking to them that it would just be weird. And I encourage you though to not make it weird. Just kind of say, I'm someone that does this every now and again. Again, this used to be more when I was drunk, or maybe if I was, on some, and just was looking for someone to talk to, I might have, fired out an obscure memory to somebody, like something that, okay, no matter where we may stand on feelings, maybe if this person is like me, that's a story that's always going to make them laugh. You give them those reminders, get those connections going there. It's always fun. This life is short. Have fun with it. And, the relationships you make are really the biggest portion of it. And that's really the part of what I'm doing here is that, I got that great experience of chat with people, in the Milwaukee stands. Gonna get to do the ballpark tour with a friend, 2 stadiums all there. I'm gonna be going to Minneapolis is gonna be on the radar now. I'm really eyeing that one out. It's a really cheap trip and it seems like a kind of a cool city. I'm gonna be in Minneapolis on August 12th and 13th. Listen to me, I'm actually spitting these out like tour dates. There's a reason why I'm doing this. There's going to be a game in Yankee Stadium at some point. Actually, that week of July, that week of July is going to be absolute hell for me. Actually, I realized the Monday before I do that, I'm probably going to do Yankee Stadium, then go work. This is how I operate. Okay, I go to the gym a lot. I have to because in order for me to carry this workload that I do, you need to have that energy. That sounds weird. You have to work the energy to build the energy, I guess. I'm going to wake up on Monday, probably go to the gym. Then I'm going to drive down to New York City, go to a baseball game, come back. I'm going to then go to work at my job in the Albany, New York area, go there, leave from there, drive to Rochester, which is about 3.5 hours, get a couple hours of sleep, wake up ass crack at dawn in the morning, hit the road with my buddy, go down to Primanti Brothers in Pittsburgh as our first stop, grab a fucking wonderful Primanti Brothers sandwich. Again, get something that you can't normally get elsewhere. It's not fast food. It's a Pittsburgh delicacy. Get that. Go to a 12:30 game at PNC Park. I haven't been to a baseball game that's lasted more than 3 hours, or that maybe the White Sox Dodgers did because there was a rain delay for like 15 minutes. That's about it. The games are going kind of quick. Pittsburgh to Cleveland, 2 hour city. Now, some people say, hey, if you account for all this time, if there's a fucking challenge, I'm going to try and prove you wrong. I will make it to Cleveland for the first pitch of that game, which is going off at 6:40 that night. That's a fucking promise. I will tell you that much. Make it to both of those. Why am I telling you the dates? Why am I telling you the cities? Why am I telling you all this? Because a goal of mine is I would like to meet somebody that watches this show at a ball game and not somebody I knew from before I started recording the show. I had this happen once when the Scho-Zone was running as an iTunes podcast. Don't want to get into what happened with that one. I'm sure at some point when I actually start having guests and stuff, these stories will come out more. I just don't want to start telling them to the listeners, then telling them to other people that may be on there. And then suddenly you start turning into where you're just kind of repeating yourself. Adam Carolla, love you to death. But if you listen to Adam Carolla for a decade, you have pretty much heard it all. But, okay, new stuff happens he reacts to, but he's doesn't mean he wasn't one of my favorites to listen to. But then I'd like to, meet one of those. I had the pleasure of when I was doing the Scho-Zone a while back, probably about 10 years ago. I think I got to look up. That was probably when my first Vegas trip was. Yeah, I had, I was in a fraternity in college and had a fraternity brother who worked as a sports information director at a fairly popular, it's a well-known college. You would recognize them. They've been in the Final Four. They've produced some Hall of Fame football players. The Aztecs. I know somebody that works there, and I'll just leave it at that. him and another coworker, they used to listen to my podcast. And this was during the old Scho-Zone was me while I was a fuck up, glorifying me being a fuck up. It was kind of like Barstool without the financial backing or talent of him and being in a major city. Although I would say that, if I zigged instead of zagged, I'm not saying I'd be Dave Portnoy, but I wouldn't be right here. But you got the rest of your life to make that one right, Ryan, or everybody for yourself. If you don't ever go with the regrets. If you had something you wanted to do, it's never too late to start doing it. I wanted to start to be a little bit of an inspiration, but not be too high on my horse. But let's not talk about it. Let's be about it. Is kind of how I'm going down with this. But yeah, it was a interesting experience getting to, having somebody that I have never met be able to kind of spit back some really fun stories to me. It was a trip. I'm not going to lie. I liked it, and it's kind of one of those things that I'm not saying I want people to admire me. I want people to be friends with me, kind of in the sense of that chances are, if you've listened to all of this, you are entertained in somewhat and probably would, if I was still drinking a beer, you would like to have a beer with me. I'm not saying I still won't meet you for that beer. Just if you have too many of those beers, I'm probably going to say, hey, man, have your fun. Just not my thing anymore. Anyways, that was the Scho-Zone. I left a lot of meat on the bone on that one, but I'm going longer and stronger. And this one will just be out there. I got to I'm starting to follow and notice what's working. I have to swallow my pride and understand that Shohei Ohtani, for whatever reason, draws way more viewers than anything that this face does. Literally him swinging, missing at a pitch, 10,000 views. 20 more subscribers. But I pour my heart and soul out in here. We might get one or two, but keep pumping them out there. I'm starting to notice that if I do these, and if anybody can confirm this for me, that anyone knows their way around the YouTube algorithm, this is the way of doing this. I'm sure I could probably pay money to find out how to do this or hire some sort of consulting, but that would be too quick and too easy. Let's have some fun with it. Let's learn it from the inside out. So I kind of have thought that when I post a video, either first thing in the morning or later at the night, I find that the immediate traffic that hits it is quicker, which getting the initial surge of views on stuff, I feel kind of accentuates. And I'm noticing as I'm getting more views on some videos and more likes on some videos, I'm getting more subscribers, I'm getting more and more views. And it just kind of seems to be like the algorithm recognizes, okay, people are listening, people are liking it, show it more, show it more, show it more. And then we click on there. So I'm kind of thinking around with that. You gotta live with the idea that it's like baseball, okay? Me, every time I hit record on this one, it's like taking an at bat in baseball. You are not gonna knock one out of the park every time. Just does not happen that way. Even the best of the best will tell you that one. It's all about, did you give it a good at bats? Now, I'll admit I'm a free swinger. I don't go up here with much of a game plan, but I like to usually try to react to what's going on around me, even though I'm just reacting to my own reflection right now, but just kind of staying engaged and going with it. Hey, sometimes you can say you at least gave it a good at bat and you just got a bad result. I mean, I have had some videos that I have liked that did not ever really see the light of day to anybody. And that's, is what it is. It's their loss is the way I have to look at it. I've had some stuff that I didn't like as much, hey, the idea that you might have a check swing that goes through it squirts through a little hole and you're standing on first base, that's still as good of a hit as if you rope one right to the right fielder. So kind of keeping the baseball analogy works a lot for me, and that's what a lot of this is for. But anyways, I appreciate anybody that made it all the way through to this. If you did make it through this one, I will say, if you would comment the number 10 if you did do this, and I will Venmo you a drink, okay? Because you need one if you just listen to this one, okay? Comment on that. I will find a way to reach out to you. If you comment 10, that's your way of knowing that you made it through this show. 10 was the number I wore when I played sports, or at least the number I always wanted to wear if I could. So that's the number that's going there. If I see 10 as a comment, I will try to find a way. Actually, I've given you my personal information. Ryan Schofield on Facebook. Scho525, SCHO525. That's on X and Instagram. And also, there is the Scho-Zone podcast at gmail.com. I have yet to get one email sent to me on that one, so it's just I have it. But somebody wants to reach out to me on there and they comment 10, I will buy you a drink. And if you can prove to me that you got me 5 subscribers, maybe I'll buy you 2 drinks. We'll see what happens. I'm all about, Mark Cuban once said he didn't get rich cash in checks. He got rich writing checks. This is just small potatoes, but just an appreciation for if you made it through. I got to estimate this was probably close to an hour of a lunatic raving. But thank you for tuning into the Scho-Zone. It's a pleasure to basically have a personal therapy session live for a camera. Take it easy, everybody.